RJ, Choppy, and Sean Sharif.
Yes.
Couple questions as we recap this game. The thing you feel best about through 2 preseason games is?
They're over.
Yeah.
You didn't enjoy watching a little bit of football on Sunday on DVR?
I feel best about Deuce Vaughn. It's not even close.
Do you feel, from what you've seen now at this point, and you see he is little. He's smaller than even his listed height, I think. He's small. When you get out there, it's, as somebody with the Cowboys told me recently, they were like, it's shocking even to us sometimes how just small he is when you stand next to him. But he's so electric, so difficult to tackle. It works in his favor a lot of times. I honestly think the defense has trouble seeing him sometimes because he's so small behind the offensive line. Is he somebody that you think if Tony Pollard went down, would you feel comfortable giving him the ball 20 times?
Sure. Yeah.
20?
I mean, you don't give anybody the ball 20 times anymore, really.
Yeah.
15 then, however much you'd give it to Pollard.
What was his workload in college like per game? Because this was a knock against Tony.
He touched the ball a lot more than Tony Pollard did. He was a guy who I'm pretty sure averaged between 20, 25 touches a game while he was at Kansas State.
If he doesn't get blown up and he doesn't get hurt or destroyed, this guy is going to have as many highlights for a running back as anyone in the National Football League.
Yeah.
It's just undeniable. It's clear as day. We don't have to overcomplicate this of, in the depth chart. Give him the football. Just give him the football, and if you give him any way, any path to the second level, he is going to create a viral video. Now, the carries after the touchdown, he got stopped in the backfield. They kind of shut him down. But if he gets any breathing room, if he gets to the second level where Zeke could not do anything after he got to the second level, the Cowboys, you could argue, what's his speed, Deuce?
His long speed is not great. He's like a 4.5, 4.55 kind of guy.
All right.
So he'll get caught from behind every now and then.
He averaged 21 carries a game last year.
Oh, give it to him. 15.
And then only 3 catches a game.
But I mean, that's 25 touches a game. That's a lot.
Yeah. I mean, he can handle the workload. I thought he was fantastic. He was one of the star ups. Honestly,
he's a star.
Yeah, I love him. I wish they would take Pollard's franchise tag away and just give him the ball. Just give him the ball every time. But I tell you, what else was one of the positive things in that game? Like, whatever you call that defense, the kind of B team defense, went up against their first team offense, got 3 and out right away.
Yeah, and honestly, I mean, they didn't look bad. It was funny. As soon as, you don't want to put too much emphasis on it, obviously the terrible news that DeMarvion Overshown, the 3rd round pick, friend of the show, best friend of the show, some might say.
Yes.
He obviously goes down with the torn ACL. His season is done, and as soon as he left the field, and he was a big communicator, a big guy that they counted on to, call the defense during these preseason games. As soon as he went off the field, they started getting gashed. It was instant. And he had 3 tackles in 6 plays or whatever he did. He was somebody that I think this entire organization was really excited about. And to a point that they had risen to a level of, oh my gosh, this is exciting, to a point that he's better than even we thought. This is something where we're kind of questioning, is this real? Is he somebody who is just going to burst onto the scene and make you start questioning, okay, what did we miss here? What did the NFL miss? Broadus had said it yesterday when we were recording. He said he anticipated that by December, DeMarvion Overshown was going to be one of the handful of guys that the NFL was going to be talking about as, why did we miss him? Why did he fall so far? Because he was somebody who looked so polished, not just on the football field with his IQ, but in the locker room, on the sideline, when we sat down and talked with him. He was so natural and so comfortable being a pro, and it's genuinely a devastating loss for them. On the topic of Deuce Vaughn,
devastating.
No, I think it is devastating for their linebacker depth. They had started developing plans for him that I don't think there's anybody in the linebacker group that does what he does, that now Dan Quinn has to scrap concepts that he was going to work in on the defense because he's not there. And so I do think that he's unique in that sense. We had talked a lot heading into training camp about Deuce Vaughn's skill set is going to translate in terms of the shiftiness. He's going to have a bunch of viral plays. We talked about, the Brandon Cook speed is different. You're going to see as soon as you get out there in Oxnard. Who were you more caught off guard by the hype? and them living up to it. Deuce or Brandon Cooks? Like, did you expect Deuce Vaughn was going to be the guy that you've seen out here, and Brandon Cooks, the speed was elite, or who caught you more off guard here?
Between those two?
Yeah.
Deuce, because where he was drafted. Look, the book on Brandon Cooks, we all knew that they stole him and that he is a speedster and he's got different blinding, a different gear that's blinding. And this guy, no one can really figure out why he keeps getting passed around the league, and he's good for 1,000-yard seasons. I have more confidence in Brandon Cooks being an impact here than Stephon Gilmore when the trade was first made. And now I'm kind of like up to an even level, as I think Brandon Cooks flew Micah Parsons and Stephon Gilmore on a plane with his pilot's license. I was watching that saying, I don't give a crap how much I trusted you all or liked you all. No, RJ could come in here and go, yeah, I got my pilot's license over the weekend. Want to go up? If it was Jerry, I would have kept that thing on the damn ground too. You're not taking Gilmore, Micah up in the air with Brandon Cooks flying.
Wouldn't you? No. Wouldn't you think that's similar to like you have these contract stipulations about no basketball? Like
no, not similar at all.
No, but wouldn't you think teams would have stipulations like let's not fly, let's not go out there and actively fly?
Like how many active pilots licenses are there in the National Football League right now? Yeah. Apparently, Brandon Cooks has one.
Brandon Cooks has one.
He talked to GBag about it, how much he loves it, how much he loves flying, and he convinced Micah Parsons and Stephon Gilmore to go up there. I have trouble getting up in a regular
BlueChew.com
airline. I have trouble getting up in a regular airline, much less a puddle jump.
I've always wanted to get mine. I've always wanted to, and I would have said I'd have flown us out to training camp. I'd have done it.
If Jerry Jones invited you, I'm being serious. If he invited us to fly over to the game in his Jerry copter, would you go?
No.
In Air Force One, the helicopter?
Yeah. No, because of your social, I'm better than all these reporters, so I'm not going to be
what it is.
In an alcohol environment, or just because of your fear of being up there?
My fear of those things going to the ground.
Would you go on his bus?
Yeah, I've been on his bus.
Would you go well,
I'm just saying I've done the bus before in Indy, but yeah, I would not go in the helicopter or the PJ, as they say. I wouldn't do the PJ.
You wouldn't do that either?
Nope, wouldn't do the PJ. Big takeaways, a couple more takeaways from this Cowboys game. I thought the offensive line continued to obviously struggle in parts, but there were a couple of bright spots. Josh Ball played probably the best game I've ever seen him have. He was good there at largely right guard is where he took those snaps. It wasn't always great, but the two tackles, Awesome Richards, the 5th-round pick out of North Carolina, and then Alex Taylor-Priolo, who is a guy that has been in the league for a couple years, South Carolina State guy, has not really had any active game time, but has been in the league with Cleveland and with Dallas here. I thought that he moved pretty well for 6'8", 305 or whatever it is. He doesn't have a lot of power, but I mean, look, if you can just kind of do the Terrence Steele and just move well and redirect guys and push them upfield, that'll work well. And he's got the length and the size that is really encouraging, that if you know how to use it, if you're not just all knees and elbows, that's a big positive right there. One thing that we all feel good about right now is the Cowboys running back depth, because Tony Pollard obviously is Tony Pollard, and now we're feeling good about Deuce Vaughn. Rico Dowdle's had some good performances, and it's one of the reasons why the Cowboys went ahead and said goodbye to Ezekiel Elliott. But the New England Patriots feel pretty damn good about moving the ball 4.5 feet at a time. This from ESPN. Ezekiel Elliott brings a, quote, little bit of juice to Patriots backfield. Very little bit. This from, who was this? Jeff Darlington and Mike Reese. It says, how effectively running back Ezekiel Elliott still hits the hole remains to be seen, but he decisively hit the ground running in his first week after signing a 1-year deal with the Patriots. Elliott's energy, passion, and football knowledge made a notable first impression on coaches and teammates. Their running backs coach there says Zeke is excited. Everyone in the room is excited. He's brought a little bit of juice in here. Coach Bill Belichick has been praising Ezekiel Elliott whenever his name has come up. Ty Montgomery, the receiver running back hybrid, had said that he talks to all the guys in the room, how he sees runs, how he sees protections. He communicates well. He's had a little bit of leadership role so far, and we'll see how that progresses. He's done a lot of these things. He's done a lot of these runs that we're going to run. Bill O'Brien heaped a bunch of praise on him. So everybody's really excited about Ezekiel Elliott and the football character that he brings. My question to you guys is this not the same version of the Dak Prescott criticism.
I was just about to say that.
He's got a great personality.
You stole my thunder. You stole my insult to try to ruin your segment. Yes, Zeke was one of 22 players with at least 200 rushes last season, and his 3.8 yards per rush ranked last among the group. He was 77 rushing yards below expectation, the fourth worst mark in the league behind Leonard Fournette, Najee Harris, and Chase Edmonds. So what does that mean, RJ? 77 rushing yards below expectation.
So if he was supposed to get 100 rush yards based on the size of the hole, the play call, whatever, he only got 33 or 23.
Yeah.
So whatever the math is on that.
So basically, he performed under expectation, which I think anybody who saw him play last year would have put that together. But Ezekiel Elliott, he's got a great personality, and the New England Patriots will tell you all about it.
Leadership, the football smarts, the Dak Prescott of running backs.
Stop it.
In New England.
Through training camp and 2 preseason games, are there Cowboys who you've changed your opinion for the positive, for them, for the better? And if so, who are they? Because I know we talked at the beginning of the show about the injuries and the loss of Overshown. So it felt like that preseason game was a dud, both performance-wise and injury-wise. But I also think there's been a lot of positivity in this training camp.
I think Jalen Tolbert's turned around everybody's perception.
Oh, yeah.
This is an example, Mike, of a guy that decided, okay, everything I did was so pathetic last year that I can't let that happen again. And he kept talking about Brandon Cooks telling him just flush it, flush that season, move on to the next. We got to, that's all you got to do is flush it. And he did. It literally looks like he's like, I'm hoping not that people are judging, well, let's act like that year doesn't exist. But that's the way he's playing. Is that year doesn't exist to me. This one is from here on. This is how I will be judged. So everything I'm doing, all the work I'm putting in since then is working. And I don't know, it felt like watching him on Saturday, even though I may have watched on Sunday like Mike. It felt like he looked comfortable in his routes.
Hey, I know this sounds bad. What time was the game out on?
9 o'clock. It started at 9 o'clock, Mike.
Okay. I was watching Rangers, and I just had no clue that the Cowboys were playing a practice game that they play the worst players they can possibly play for 60 minutes.
Mickey was like, hold on, you can't stay up till midnight? And I was like, no, Mickey, that's tough for me. So, yeah, it's tough, man. Staying up that long. I get up early. Anyway, the Tolbert looked comfortable running the routes, running his slants, getting across the field.
That's a great answer.
Great. I'm gonna answer this one by my favorite interview in training camp, and that's Sam Williams. Now, I know he had a penalty, and I will say this. I do disagree with Mickey. I do think that has to be a penalty, because if somebody did that against Dak Prescott, we'd be furious, right?
Yes.
That would be around his ankle surgery and knee and everything. Be like, look, at the end, we don't want you diving at our guy's shin, because a lot of things can twist and break around there that we don't want. So that being said, I'm wondering this, guys. Help me out here. We have Van Der Esch and Clark. And I know for the most part, you only play 2 linebackers on almost every play. It's rare you play 3 linebackers.
But I would say, given that we've heard about Van Der Esch taking some pass rush snaps and everything to look to switch it up, you will need another person, if I'm guessing where this is going.
Well, I'm wondering if Sam Williams is doing great. And great is for him, not like as great as Micah Parsons, if you get what I'm saying. Are there times where 20% of the time I can play Micah Parsons at linebacker to help out that situation where maybe I'm thinking, hey, it's more of a run play? And I know Sam Williams isn't much of a run stopper, even though he did have a nice run stop in that game that I watched. I'm just wondering, I'm excited about Sam Williams. I'm just wondering if we got to the point where Micah Parsons was pretty much 100% a defensive end. I'm just wondering, with this injury, and I know it was a rookie, do you think about helping out that way?
I do, because I don't. Corey, I asked Mickey a question like this earlier. Now it's your turn. You might agree with me, or you might think this is pure foolishness and yell at me. I think if you could make Micah the linebacker 20% of the time and he helped this defense stop the run, then people would fear him in a totally different way. Like if you're like, hey, he can get to the quarterback. We all know he can get to the quarterback, but we can also kick him back. Maybe it's 10%, whatever the hell percent of the time. We can kick him back in your more traditional linebacker spot, and you ain't getting past the second level of the defense.
Yeah, I see where y'all are going with it. I think they'll try to do everything they can to have him going forward rather than backwards.
Yeah.
But in those run situations, Mike, you're right. Like he's good. He has good instincts on stopping that too.
Let's just say Micah Parsons. I want you to. If Micah Parsons does play defensive end 95% of the snaps that he plays, which is most likely what he's going to do, if not 100%. And we know that DeMarcus Lawrence is going to play 100% of his snaps at defensive end. He's not going to drop back to linebacker. He might drop in coverage, but that's where he's playing. How much are our other defensive ends going to play? If Micah Parsons is going to be on the field for 90% of snaps, and DeMarcus Lawrence is going to be on the field for 70% of defensive snaps, I'm just wondering, how do I get Sam Williams in? How do I get maybe some of these other guys in, but keep Micah Parsons on the field?
I see where you're going, and it's a great problem for Dan Quinn to figure out. A great thing to try to solve. Injuries happen, so like that. Just understanding that at some point, DeMarcus Lawrence might have this wrong, and so that's going to limit us this week. And so I think every week is going to be a new plan, or a new opportunity to do something unique and add some new wrinkles to it. And that's where that planning part of it, I think, will be a huge factor. So I can't sit down, and I like with Luka and the Mavericks, we can sit down and pretty much chart out how all the minutes are going to be played. Mike did it the other day. Hell, he was just like, look, it's going to be this. And you don't have any minutes for this guy. But I don't think it's quite the same with this because of so many things that can happen even within a game. I mean, Overshown's gone now. You probably had him slotted for about 30% of plays that you were starting to add into this now, and now that's gone before the season even starts. But it's a good option. I think the great thing is with the Cowboys, they have so many defensive linemen that they feel good about, that they can do a lot of different things. And that's going to allow them to make that kind of decision with Micah if they want to.
I know his name's not James Washington, but that's what I think of when I see 37 on a Cowboys football field. It's Scott Jr., is that right? Eric Scott. Is he the junior or no?
Yes, that's right.
So he's been, do you think it's preseason, right? I mean, I saw the stupid ass show, New York Jets show, whatever, on HBO. Yeah. Oh, right. The 50. He got his sack. He got his first sack in the NFL. He didn't get doodly crap without cussing. I have no clue how many sacks that DeMarcus Ware got in his preseason football career. Guess what? They don't keep those stats. They're stupid. They're stupid, worthless stats. So, that being said, I know it's preseason, and I'm not saying that he was, it wasn't like he was going against Geno Smith and what I'm saying? He's going against backups.
Well, he got beat by Jackson Smith and Jigba. I mean, Jackson Smith and Jigba's...
Even though he was there.
Yeah.
It was a very
close.
Who's the dude? Cheeto. Awuzie. Like, that was like a Cheeto coverage. You're like, dude, you were there. You just never saw the ball.
Yeah.
Like, you had you did everything right except see the ball, and the guy caught it and got it down.
He had another great
line.
play where he got his hand on the ball.
Do you feel like he has done anything preseason wise? I just worry about preseason. Like, hey man, Rugi Odor hit 7 home runs. Well, guess what? He's going to strike out 70 million times when it's a real baseball game.
Because the person I was kind of thinking about, and I understand your question, was that it was also in the defensive backfield is Wanye Thomas. Look, I get it. That taunting penalty was stupid. We've talked.
He started the season off, or the preseason off, with an interception.
I am a doubting Thomas on him.
He intercepted your guy, Trevor Lawrence.
He threw it right to him. I think he just felt bad for the guy. He wants him to make the team so he can pick on him in the regular season.
That is absurd.
By the way, what was he mouthing off anyways? It was your guy, Drew Lock, who can't throw a pass, even though he completed.
Why is that my guy?
Because you hate him.
It was a bad pass.
Right, it was just a horrible pass.
Yeah,
he did nothing.
Behind him.
It's like, oh, look at me. Like, if you walked on 4 pitches where they pitched out, you're like, you didn't actually walk. We intentionally walked you.
Actually, Mike, no. I think what we learned from the Seattle broadcast was that throw was an intentional behind him so he wouldn't get hurt. That's what
they did say.
That's what
they did say. It was a great.
Robinson
It was a great throw by Drew Lock. He knew that his receiver would get hurt if he threw it perfectly into his chest, so he decided to throw it behind him. You're like, God, this is the stupidest crap I've ever heard.
But you're right. He did kind of. He was. He didn't do anything. It's very similar.
What are you talking trash
when
about?
When guys do the no fly zone.
Oh my God!
When they weren't even near the
that.
play, you got beat and the ball got overthrown. Yeah. Why did you do no?
might be the most agitating thing in football to me when the ball sailed out over somebody's head by 5 yards and you're like kind of there, but you were definitely giving up that reception.
With Eric Scott, I think it's interesting because I'm not expecting him to start this year, nor am I. I mean, with the depth.
You think he'll make the team?
I think so, but here's the problem: Kelvin Joseph actually has done enough to make the team.
Yeah,
and that's my
second round.
I think that Scott could be a practice squad guy, or he might be able to make the team. But you have so much depth in your secondary. It's tough.
Can you go over the secondary? And I shouldn't say secondary, cornerback depth.
All right, your cornerbacks start at Gilmore. All right, and then on the other side, Trayvon Diggs.
Okay, other side.
And then in between there, you can pick your choice between Jordan Lewis and Deron Bland.
All right, there's
and
4.
I think you're feeling pretty good about that.
You get 2 more, right, on your active roster pretty much? You can take 6 into a game.
And then Kelvin Joseph has staked his claim.
Right.
I don't know about Nashawn Wright's injury, but Nashawn Wright's still probably going to have an opportunity. And then you're trying to figure out with CJ Goodwin and Eric Scott.
No, I see what you're saying.
It's tough.
You just named 8, and you're not keeping 8 on the active roster? Or on your 53?
I mean, there's 6 more that I didn't name, but I'm not going to.
They're all released. Their names are released Magoo.
Yeah, I just might make some different decisions. But I think he's right in terms of the team perspective. As you can probably guess, there's 2 names that we're getting again and again. Jalen Tolbert is one of them, and then Deuce Vaughn is the other one. Deuce Vaughn has had some really electric runs. And they started using him on the return game.
I should have looked this up.
Tony Pollard should have started the last 2. Otherwise, he's losing his job.
I'm looking up Tony Pollard real quick.
Stop it.
I'm going to this.
Right. I was going to throw in Isaiah Land. I know he's not going to be necessarily heavy playing time, but I think he's shown some stuff.
4th round pick, Tony Pollard. In 2019, he had 86 carries. I'm asking this question. Over, under Deuce Vaughn, 86 carries. And why, if you think it's over, why do you think all of a sudden the Cowboys will be playing a rookie that much that's a 6th round pick?
Well, I mean, it could be, maybe he plays the last game of the season and gets 20. That would be a thing. I don't know, Kevin, how you don't try to get the ball in his hands more, though.
But didn't we say this about Tony Pollard forever?
And that's the thing.
And that was a Kellen Moore offense.
If you're asking me, I do get the ball in his hand more. I am just not of the opinion that they're going to use him to the level that people want.
You feel like the Jason Garrett era destroyed our souls. That's what it did. It really did. And I don't know how much different it is from McCarthy, except for
doesn't McCarthy take some of this blame then? Because he's been here for the Pollard era that took way too long to get started.
In 2020, he got 101 carries. So he got 15 more carries under McCarthy his second year in the NFL.
Yeah, I do wonder, like Bochy, he's a veteran manager, right? And so what does he do? If a guy's hot, I'm going to keep going to him.
Sure.
And I do wonder if the veteran play caller in Mike McCarthy is more willing to be like, I got to keep going to this guy because he's hot and it's going to help our team win. And that's all that matters. Like, winning is the thing that matters to these guys. But I would say under, not significantly under. I would probably say 75.
I want it to be over. I want it to be 100 carries, let's just say. And then you look at Pollard, he had 15 catches his rookie year, 28 catches his second year. I'd love for him to catch the ball 30 times. I'm talking about Deuce Vaughn. But I just have this feeling that as excited as the Cowboys Nation is getting on Deuce Vaughn, that they're going to be reluctant to play him in a real football game. And I don't agree with it. I'd like to see, because even last year we heard from a lot of Cowboys people 3 games into the season, you can't really do this to Tony Pollard. He can't block. He can't handle the situation. Yep. And now we're not hearing those things, right? We're not hearing, hey, going into this year, Tony Pollard on a franchise tag. We are not hearing from the Dallas Cowboys people, hey, the Cowboys are really going to stink at protecting Dak. Why? Well, because of the running back. Hey, the Cowboys are really going to stink at running the ball in the fourth quarter. Why? Because of Tony Pollard. We're not hearing those things again. It's amazing how now that they have elevated him, those Cowboys people aren't saying those things about Tony Pollard. All of a sudden, he can handle all those situations.
Mike's right about that.
Now, one of the interesting things is we named a whole lot of young players. Like, obviously, they got hurt, but Overshone and Stevens would have been on that list. Tolbert, Vaughn, land. You're all talking about like brand new or newer players to the Cowboys. I just wanted to throw out also,
Overshown was the name that changed my mind too. You know?
Yeah. I just wanted to throw the name out of Brandon Cooks. I know he is by no means a new player to the league or anything like that. But when we saw him in training camp, you got to see like, oh, this is how this could work in a game and how it perfectly fits what you were looking for in terms of field stretching from this team.
I just wanted to add to the running back conversation. A lot of that has to do with whoever winds up being the 2. If Dowdle's the clear-cut number 2 at the end of this thing, pass catching is something that he can do out of the backfield. And that's going to limit Deuce Vaughn's ability to get on the field too, because now we have another guy that can do some of these things. But yeah, man, this team, I think I saw somebody tweet to Broadus, and they're like, "Oh, all these slants. This is wearing me out. This is all they can do." And Broadus tweeted back and said, "Is this your first time seeing the West Coast offense?" Because that's what there's lots of slants in the West Coast offense.
It helps your offensive line out, though.
It helps your quarterback.
You're getting rid of the ball within about 3 seconds. If the ball's not released, you've kind of messed up as a quarterback.
Yeah.
Like, what's going on? And if everybody's covered, throw it away.
Yep.
Don't hold on. Don't try to extend plays. No, I get it. Like, if you're great, go ahead. But, I mean, a lot of the West Coast offense is, hey, we're going to protect the quarterback by there are going to be quick reads, and we're going to let the receivers catch that ball and then make a play after the catch.
Here's Greg Olsen. I think he's the best in-game guy going right now. He says Mike McCarthy's rolling the dice. They've had a top 5 offense last couple of years, scoring, call it 30 again for a while. A lot of teams out there would cut their arm off to score 30. They go ahead and fire their OC, but I think all eyes are on Dak as well. I think all eyes are on this offense. Can they go from a team that is known for scoring a lot of points to a team that can win a meaningful game in the playoffs? Can they win a tough game in January? I think that's what Dak and Mike McCarthy are searching for at 877-881-1053. Can they become that team this year? Can they win 2 playoff games this year? Or is this a team capable of doing that?
I'd like to say yes. It's a team capable of doing it. I mean, it's frustrating because you saw Dak play so well against Tampa Bay and then play so poorly against San Francisco. Brian, you've talked about this too. A lot of it is kind of some luck along the way. You know, the year that you were able with the Packers to make it to the Super Bowl, you didn't have to play the Cowboys. Can things maybe fall in line to where the Cowboys dodge the Niners? You know, some team upsets them. They might need a little bit of help along the way. You know, I feel like they can beat the Eagles. They did it last year. I know Hurts didn't play, but they were in the game with Cooper Rush. Dak's owned the Eagles throughout his career. Really, the Niners are the only team that I think really scares you. But with how weak the conference is, they absolutely can. We just got to see it happen to really believe it.
Who is your last team in the NFC you think would make the playoffs?
Seattle?
Your last team.
That realistically can, or just a team that
No, they're probably
I'd probably go
so
the Giants.
whoever that is, because
I'd probably go the Giants.
likely what's going to happen is San Francisco is going to be the 2 seed. You know, so I think, me personally, I think Philadelphia is going to get the 1, this year. And so that means San Francisco likely could have the 2. And if that's the case, then to get your upset, it's going to have to be whoever the last team is. Whoever you feel like who's
going to win the NFC South or who's going to win the NFC North.
Whoever the NFC South is going to get a home game. So, I mean, it's going to be somebody.
Yeah, but then you got the Cowboys playing as a wild card team.
Right.
So they're going to have to play one of those top 4 seeds, right?
I think Dallas would probably be the 5th seed. I think Dallas is going to have to go to 4.
Similar to last year.
So they probably go to Atlanta or they go to Chicago or Green Bay.
Yeah, exactly. Detroit.
Yeah,
depending
Detroit,
on.
New
so
Orleans.
You have to figure out who could beat, in your scenario, who could beat San Francisco to give you a path. That's what you.
Or hell, I mean, this team needs to get the 1 seed. This team needs to be the team that gets home field advantage. They need to get the 1 seed because then you open yourself up where maybe you get 2 opportunities where a team can upset the Niners in the second round. It might be more important than ever for this team to dominate the regular season, win this division, have that bye.
To avoid the real best team in the NFC? That's where we're at right now.
Look, I don't think they match up well with the Niners. And maybe the Niners have injury issues and they're not as good this year, but they've kicked their ass 2 years in a row.
But we're talking about 1-game sample sizes where, I mean, if you're telling me that the Cowboys and the Niners are playing, it's not 10 out of 10 the Niners are just going to beat them every time.
But Dawson's right what he said about the Cowboys and how poorly they match up against physical fronts.
Yeah. And there's no front that's more physical than San Francisco.
For sure. Yeah, no, it's a less than ideal matchup. That's the team that you fear the most.
That's the one
sure.
you want to dodge. So I think that, just in this hypothetical world, if things, for them to be able to accomplish this, I think they definitely can if they find a way to avoid the Niners.
I think the way it happens is what Greg Olsen is talking about. Why did Mike McCarthy take the reins from a guy who was scoring 30 points per game with a, at times, shaky offensive line and a quarterback that's not a Hall of Famer? He's 100% convinced it can be better than that.
Right.
And wow, if he makes it better than that, that's awesome. And that's what you have to do right now, is figure out a way to be the Shanahan of Texas, right? Our offensive line doesn't say run game dominance. It doesn't say super efficient pass game, because our guy's going to have rushers in his face. But, how do you create that sort of an advantage for your guys? I don't know that that's Mike McCarthy's strength. I think he has great strengths. I defended the hell out of him last hour. I don't know if that's what he should be angling for. I appreciate him for taking the shot at it.
I think Mike made this really personal with Kellen Moore. I think that's what happened. I think that Mike understood, it's like, okay, I don't want to call the offense. The Joneses really like Kellen Moore. Let's see how this works.
Yeah.
And then
he lost in that Green Bay game.
And he lost in that Green Bay game. And I don't think Mike will ever forgive him for that.
Well, and then, you lost Dak. He said, we've been too aggressive around here for a lot of years. The super conservative approach worked with Cooper Rush. And then you brought Dak back, and after 2 warm-up games, back came the super aggressive approach. And, I don't think Mike McCarthy, wants to run a lot or play boring football, but it is clear from both of those situations and then the firing that transpired, he'd added up to here with the guy. And we have to keep our fingers crossed that it was Kellen Moore screwing up, not ego, right? There has to be objective scientific things we can do to make this offense hum better, especially against physical fronts and not just the ego taking place.
Maybe it was a situation, too, where Kellen Moore had enough of Mike McCarthy. And
I think the press conference where he didn't really go ahead and back him
immediately
up.
when Kellen got let go, he had a gig. I mean, it was
we didn't hear anything about that until his ass was essentially fired. They let him save face by stepping away or
no, but I think that maybe that Kellen had enough of Mike and Mike had enough of Kellen.
Because Kellen Moore was a know-it-all, and Mike McCarthy was trying to lend veteran experience to avoid some of. Here's Brian Broaddus with more film takeaways from Saturday's Seahawks Cowboys preseason week 2
thanks,
game.
Joe. I appreciate you doing that for me. The thing that I really noticed, I've talked about these offensive players. By the way, I was glad to see Luke Schoonmaker get some opportunity as well in this football game. We talked about the running back situation. I'm going to say this about the defensive side of the ball, and I'm now concerned with the Overshown loss because I think I'm understanding what I have in Devin Harper. I think I'm understanding him, and I think he's right now a better player than Jabril Cox. But you're going to find the Overshown loss. I don't know if they can make up for that.
How big of a role did you have?
I think it was going to be major. I think it was going to be major. I think it was going to allow them to do something. I think the replacement from how I'm reading this, I think the replacement for Van Der Esch is Clark. But I think that Overshown was going to let them do some stuff in take Van Der Esch and let him rush.
Yes.
And then take Clark off and let Overshown be like a cover.
So you had a 3-player rotation of guys you trust.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think they lost that ability. I don't know if I trust Harper or Cox to play in a role where you all of a sudden take Damone Clark off the field and allow Leighton Van Der Esch to rush.
So now, after last week's game and how good Overshown's looked in camp and preseason, I thought, all right, now linebacker could be a position of strength. You take Overshown out of that, and now you elevate Harper. You elevate Cox. We don't feel as good about the depth.
I don't feel as good about I feel better about Harper. I don't feel better about Cox.
Okay,
and that makes me so. Yeah, if it's a depth question, yes.
Yeah, and naked eye, and I brought this up to you off air when you went back and watched the All-22. To me, it seemed like Jabril Cox was struggling in coverage, and that should be his strength.
And that's his strength. And usually, what he's just not playing with the awareness, And this is the point that when you start to talk about Overshown. I mean, Jabril Cox, once he got hurt, he wasn't the same player, and now you hope that this time next year we're talking about Overshown in a way that like he's not like Cox, where he's like cautious, reading late. That was the one thing with Overshown. I mean, you could throw him on the field. He's smart, and he's able to like finish and stuff. I just don't see the same thing. So
no, that's a unique guy. You don't have anybody to fill the void that you like. Whatever role they had planned for him, there's not a guy that you plug and play in that role,
right?
Which is hugely disappointing. And for as good a preseason game one as he had, he came out of the gates hot the other night, just flying around making plays. It was heartbreaking to see.
It was. Okay, now in the secondary though, I'm a little worried about Israel Mukuamu. And I'm worried that the player that finished the year last year and what he was able to do, I kind of felt like man, this guy is going to take that step up, and you're gonna get.
Me too, dude.
We're
not seeing it.
I'm not seeing the guy playing with a lot of awareness right now. Like the one thing that he was able to do, the length, the ability to run with people,
he was sticky, man.
He very sticky. He hasn't been sticky yet.
Sure tackler too last year.
He was, but I mean, they didn't play him at all until the end of the year, and maybe that's why. And then he played great for those 3 games.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's really all we've seen the entirety of his career is that short sample size where he played really well.
It was a small sample size, but he did have a game, at least one early in the year, where one of these safeties was banged up, and he filled in like a beast.
I think it was Curse.
Maybe it was
Curse.
Curse.
That pregame of Curse that jacked up his knee, I believe. That one time.
And then it was like, dude, Mukuamu's out here, and you don't feel like you miss a beat with him, and he's got the size and the length, and he's young. You feel like he's on the ascent. He was one of the guys I was most excited about for this upcoming season, and I'm not going to be totally out on him at this point, but that is definitely disappointing.
A guy that started off really, really well in camp that's kind of plateauing and maybe going down a little bit is Eric Scott.
Yeah.
Eric Scott has kind of turned into a player that looked like the ball gravitates towards him. He's in coverage and all that. And hey, it's a tough assignment. He's had to deal with he's been covering veteran, Smith and Jigba.
But he's nasty.
He
was right there.
Yeah, that's the thing about it is it's been tough covers for him. But we've seen him have some tough covers against guys in training camp. But it just seems like, man, it's just not quite there for him. I would be surprised if they did keep him. Maybe this is the practice squad guy.
They traded up for him, right?
Yeah, they sure did.
Yeah, I mean, they don't like getting rid of their draft
picks.
They
won't.
I think he's got a spot on the roster, but we'll see.
How about this? They're playing Deron Bland outside a lot more now, and they're trying to figure out Kelvin Joseph inside.
Joseph, like ball, might have played his best game on Saturday.
I kind of feel like, though, with Joseph, they're trying to figure out. They think because Joseph could be physical and he could play inside and be, and jam guys and run with guys and stuff. I think they're trying to figure out a spot for him. I think they feel like he could fall back as be the special teams guy, but they're grooming him to be more of a nickel inside guy, but also do some of that work we talked about at safety.
Thank you, Brian.
Yeah.
Film takeaways from Broadus every show after the Cowboys game.